Hello and welcome to a new version of a video I have done a couple of times before. It's time for another one. It is my Christmas gift guide. I say Christmas only because it's now that I'm publishing it in a few weeks before Christmas, but the gifts I shall be featuring are equally applicable any time of year. So if you have someone you want to buy something nice for, then hopefully there will be something here of interest to you. And the thing about all the things I'm going to show you is that they have been produced by narrowboaters, by and large, on board their narrowboats. So we've got all sorts of arts and crafts and different things to show you, and it's really quite the extraordinary range. There are a couple of caveats I just want to get to before I actually start showing you the product. First of all, there are lots and lots and lots of boaters who do the most extraordinary work that they offer for sale, and I cannot possibly hope to show anything other than a tiny, tiny fraction of it, just a little soup song, a little sample of what you might be able to get. So if nothing here tickles your fancy, and I think you'll find there is something for everyone actually, but if you want to look for broader stuff, you can either go onto Twitter, if it still exists at the time of you viewing this, and look for the hashtag #BuyItOffABoat, which many traders trade under. And also there is an organisation called the Roving Canal Traders Association, which has a complete directory of boats that make and sell stuff as they go around the canal network, and you can find other traders there as well. The other caveat to mention is that I was going to say, although this isn't an advert, I mean it is an advert in the sense that I am showing you products that you can buy, and I'll show you websites and give you all the links to go and buy stuff, but it's not a paid promotion. I have not been paid to produce this by anyone whose product I'm featuring. I've received no other fiscal compensation or benefits. I reached out to all these people and said, could you loan me your product so that I can show it on this video and I will return it afterwards? Now some of them have said, oh, keep it, it's more hassle than it's worth to send it back, but I didn't ask for it and I'm not asking for any payment. I'm doing this off my own back because I like showing the kind of things that narrowboaters can actually provide. All right, that's enough disclaimers and stuff. I think you get the general gist if you are a regular viewer. The point is, I'm genuinely enthusiastic about these products and I want to show you what canal boaters are up to, and these are things you can buy. And first of all, has to be the canal boat game. This is brilliant. I mean, just look at it. This is a proper product. You know, sometimes you can buy things that are handmade and they can be a bit handmade. Look at this. It's a proper board game. They've actually had it, I mean, they designed it on their narrowboat and they've had it properly produced and everything. And it is a genuine board game for ages 14 plus, 2 to 6 players. And it is, they say, about 45 minutes of playing time. So this is not like Monopoly, where you have to get in supplies, food and drink for several weeks to sit down and play the game. This is something that is actually ideal for Christmas. When you've got all the relies round, sit round, have a nice game of Argy Bargy. I'm going to get some of this out and I'll tell you briefly. I mean, its whole thing is set around the idea of the canals and the canal mania of the 1700s when the canals were being built. You have a proper playing board. This is very shiny. It's going to reflect under the lights. But look, there's a proper playing board. There we go, which is roughly themed around Great Britain. Have I got it the right way up? No, of course I haven't. No, of course I haven't. That's the right way up. And you can see marked on it bits of canal at various places around the UK, which have place names on them, like Birmingham and Bristol and so on. And what you end up doing is you've got these cards, which give you 2 destinations. What's that? Birmingham to Bristol. And the idea is you then play your canal building cards, which look like this. There's a straight bit of canal. There's a curved bit of canal. What else have we got? We've got some canal with locks and a T-junction, and you put them on the board. What have I done with the board? Yes, there we go. I'll show you. You put them on the board in the squares so as to kind of form a route between the places you've been given. And everyone takes a turn and puts a thing down, and there is a scoring system for how long a route is and how many tiles you use to make your route. It's all detailed in the instructions. I confess I found the scoring a little bit complicated, but I did get the hang of it eventually. And ultimately, when all the tiles are played and all the routes are done, you tally up who's got the fewest points. I think it's the fewest points. And that person is the winner because they've made the best canal routes. I'm probably making it sound more complicated than it is. It is fairly straightforward. But, I mean, look at this. It's really nice. So if you fancy a canal board game, and there really can be no better game for Christmas, then Argy Bargy from Chugging Along, Tim and Sam, there they are on the front cover of the game. I'll leave a link to this in the video description below, along with a link to their YouTube channel, because, I mean, they're narrowboaters. Of course they've got a YouTube channel. Who hasn't these days? So that is my first gift suggestion for you this Christmas. For my next suggestion of things made on a narrowboat that you might like, I am often asked, it's one of the most frequently asked questions I get, is where can I get a nice canal map? Now, I have previously shown the maps from Minimalist, Joe and Michael, and those maps are still available, but they're not the only ones doing canal maps. Oh no, for a completely different take, and it's absolutely wonderful, have a look at this from Dru Marland. There's a whole load of these. This is just one, and it's a very different style. I mean, Joe and Michael's are in a kind of tube style map, and this is just very intricate and detailed. Lovely, lovely design, and that's the whole, is that the whole England and Wales? Yes, it is waterways, but there's also more individual ones. So this one is the west end of the Kennet and Avon. I mean, it almost looks like a board game itself, doesn't it? Speaking of the previous item, but it isn't. It is a map of the K&A with just these wonderful little illustrations of things that you would find along the route. That's the west end of the K&A. We've also got the summit and east end of the K&A. It's so detailed. It's just, you could look at this for hours and still notice things. Days, weeks, even months later, you could come back to this and go, oh, I've just spotted whatever. There's a drawing of a kingfisher there or something or other. But you've got owls and foxes and stoats and kingfishers and narrowboats. Look at the effort that went into that. It's just beautiful, beautiful illustration. Available here as an A4 map, and not just canal routes. You've got other examples of the same style of artwork, but this is Wiltshire and the White Horses. You've got, and this is just a sample. There's some artwork about Devon, 3 hares in Devon. I don't know anything about that one actually. But should you prefer postcards, we have postcards. Now, these are rather special. There's one, the inside, the back cabin of a narrowboat. There's lots of these. I particularly like, look, there's fox staring at a narrowboat in the distance. There's, I've got a whole stack of these. I can't possibly show you them all, but where's that other one I rather liked? Oh, look, there's the same fox staring at a narrowboat on a wintry scene. There's one that is a kind of, oh, there it is. There it is. Now, this is great. This is a cross-section of a narrowboat. It's as if Dru has sliced the boat in half and you are looking inside it to see what the people and animals are up to. And these are just lovely little postcards. What's that called? Winter Night at Alton Barnes, that is called. And there's so many of these. You've got cat staring into the back of narrowboat. You've got narrowboat hiding amongst the trees. The skill, I'm perpetually in envy of people who can draw and paint and do things like that, because my artistic talent is that of probably a sub 5-year-old with a crayon. Also available as gift cards, standard cards, as well as postcards. So if you are looking for an alternate take on a canal map, or even some canal themed cards, the artwork of Dru Marland, definitely worth a look. As before, I shall leave a link to that in the video description, so if you want to go and buy yourself a card, that is the place to look. While we are on the subject of cards, and you know, with the cost of postage these days, I find myself sending fewer and fewer cards. I tend to just put up a rude message on Facebook once a year saying, Happy Christmas everyone, I'm too mean to send cards. But between you and me, I do still send a few cards to people I really like. You know, not Facebook friends, real friends. And when I send them a card, I like to send them a nice card. It used to be when I sent out loads, I'd buy the cheapest pack of Christmas cards I could find, and you know, that was job done. But now I send out a few. I like to send good cards. So let me present to you some cards from Suzie Sue's creations. Now, they're all wrapped up in plastics. They might shine a bit again in the lights. But here, for example, is one of my favourites, this lovely festive penguin. And I don't know if you can see, I'm going to have to take it out of its wrapping, which I shall do so very gently. But these are all created with ribbon, which has been twisted over itself to form the shape. It's called, so Susie tells me, a technique called iris folding, because the way the ribbon is folded is a bit like the iris of a camera, in that you end up with things that are folded over themselves. There we do. I'll try and do a close-up of that one, if that's feasible. You see how it's made of ribbon, and it's all kind of folded over itself to form the design. So the black bit here of the penguin and his white tum, that is all ribbon, and it gives it a lovely three-dimensional. You can touch this card. It's not just a painting. You can feel and stroke the penguin. It's sounding a bit weird, but that's just one example. Let me show you another one. This one, actually, I must get this one out because you really can see the technique that's been used here. Hang on. This is a swan, and perfect canal element, of course, a swan. But look at that. And again, if you look very close up, you see that all of its wings, all of its body, all of its head, all of this is done with this ribbon that's been tied and then made lines out of. I'm really describing this very badly, Susie. I'm so sorry. I'm not doing justice to your craft work at all. But I think just by looking at it, you can get the general gist of how that has been put together. And it gives them just these wonderful kind of texture and feel. This is a card that I would actually send to somebody I liked, because it's a really nice card. It's a present in itself. It's not just some random throwaway, oh, it's Christmas, I better send you a card. This is a really nice one. It's one that you know, or at least you jolly well hope the person on the other end is going to keep. That's Suzie Sue's creations. There's loads more. There's a Christmas robin. There's a Merry Christmas tree. What else have we got? Merry Christmas baubles. And, since we are talking narrowboats, a Christmas narrowboat, which it's a little bit hard to show up because it's on a dark background, but there is actually black of boat there on dark background with starry sky and rest of outline of narrowboat. So if you want a card that is unlike anything I've ever seen before, Suzie Sue's creations. Next up, we have potential gifts for you from the rather confusingly double-named Nomadic Crafts and the Narrowboat Project. I don't know why they have two names. It's confusing. Call yourselves one name. However, they do produce some rather splendid macrame, which I always thought was some kind of Italian pasta dish until I discovered what it is. And it's, well, you probably know, don't you? Because you're more informed than I am. But it's this, what would you call it? Twisted. If I called this string, it's probably offensive. Is it string? Twisted stuff that looks a bit like string and a bit like yarn. I'm not quite sure what you'd call it, but you twist it together with all these cleverly placed knots and you end up with a hanging thing that you can hang stuff in. This is a general purpose hanger with a nice bit of wood at the top, and then you hang that obviously over what do you call it? A thing in the wall. What do you call it? A hook. That's the thing. A hook. And it's decorative. And I've seen videos on the internet of people doing macrame, and I wouldn't have the patience for it. I'm sure it's very soothing and relaxing to sit there with all these strands that dangle down, and you twist them and knot them, and you end up with something like that. I'm pretty sure I would end up with just a load of old knots, but there we go. So that is one of their examples. Now, here's another of the kind of thing they sell, being quite gentle with it. This is a pot holder. Pot not included, but pot included for the demonstration purposes. And it's all very intricately done. I mean, these must take hours, I would imagine, because it's all hand knotted. Every one of these is a little knot of the little strands of rope / yarn / string, whatever you call this. But you end up with these things that you can hang a pot in. That would look rather nice. It would look better if I had actual flour in the pot, but I don't. But there you go, you get the general gist. And to see what it actually looks like without, there we go. There's an example of it again. And you can hang all sorts of things in these. They, I think they said one of these is suitable for hanging fruit in. And they do loads of other stuff as well, not just the macrame. I was so pleased to receive this. I did say to people, just lend me some of your things that I can show on camera. And bless their cotton socks, they sent me some Cruising the Cut. things. So that is a slate tile coaster with a logo in it and a cork coaster. Look at that. My Vandemonium channel, because if you don't know, I've got a camper van channel as well, Vandemonium. And what is more, I should have taken these out in advance. Hang on, bear with me. These are wood carved key rings. So there's a CruisingTheCut key ring, look at that. And CruisingTheCut with a YouTube logo, and effectively they kind of burnt the logo into the wood and then cut it out and made a key ring. So if macrame is not your bag, they've got all these other things. No wonder they call themselves Nomadic Crafts, because they do a bit of everything. They've got slate tiles, they've got wood stuff, they've got macrame stuff. They've got a website, and I have put the link to it, as you would expect, in the description below. I reiterate, by the way, I'm not on commission for any of this. I'm not getting paid. I'm doing it because I like showing off stuff that narrowboaters have produced, and that is Nomadic Crafts. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but winter is coming, and suddenly in the last week or so, it's got chilly. My central heating has turned itself on and decided it is cold, and I've been putting thicker socks on. So what finer thing could you have to wrap around your neck than a handmade, rather luxury scarf? I'll have to be careful of the microphone when I do this, but ooh, I feel like Tom Baker in Doctor Who. I just need some jelly babies now. This is from the Beanie Boat. So called because they do beanies. I'm not, you will have ascertained, a professional model, but look at that. This is all really nice. Oh, it's so soft. Could stroke that for hours. I think it's, what did they say, merino wool and yak's wool. It's the good stuff. Really nice. It's so soft. Oh, you could go to sleep on that, honestly. But it's a beanie from the Beanie Boat and the scarf, which I have tossed casually to the floor. I'm so sorry. There we go. This is Nikki, Sharon and Jackson on the Beanie Boat. They also, if you are a person who makes stuff with yarn yourself, they sell the yarns. And again, this is all the proper quality stuff. What does this say? Double knit, 100% merino wool, 100 grams. This is, I can't actually read what that says. It's in a font I can't read. Oh, no, that's 100% superwash merino. There we go. Honestly, my eyesight. And what's this one? Hang on. That is Tibetan, I think that might be Tibetan yak, partly Tibetan, 20% Tibetan yak wool. They're all super soft. If you are a yarner, there's probably a better word for that, then they sell these things. And if you're not into knitwear, they've got another little sideline, in soaps. And if only you could smell this room now, because it's a glorious aroma, I tell you. We've got avocado and coconut soap on this one, and this is apple, I think. Yes, fresh apple, and you really can smell them. They are super lovely smelly. So soaps, always popular, especially at Christmas, birthdays, any time of year really. For that unwashed person in your life, get them some soaps from the Beanie Boat, why don't you? Needless to say, the Beanie Boat is not the only narrowboat from which you can produce woolen handmade products. For Fran on Floating Our Boat, yes, the narrowboat vlogger, who isn't a narrowboat vlogger these days, also does spinning of yarn into rather lovely scarves. Now this is produced in what I would call a knobbly style, but which I'm assured is actually called a saori style. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. It's a Japanese style, which is a kind of free-form yarn weaving, which enables you to come up with things like this, which, as I say, I would call knobbly. Can you kind of get the gist of, I'm not sure again, it's very three-dimensional. You've got all these knobbles in the wool. And interestingly, the wool in this scarf comes from alpacas, from towpath alpacas, which if you cast your mind back a long, long time in my videos on my channel, when I was cruising around the Midlands, let me remember exactly where they are. I think they're up on the Trent and Mersey. Someone will correct me on that if I'm wrong, possibly the Coventry Canal. But I've been past this place called Towpath Alpacas, where you look up and sure enough, on the towpath there, in an enclosure, there are alpacas. And it turns out they get the wool off the alpacas, and Fran uses it to make her creations, which she calls Constan's Creations, because she had a boat called Constant. They've moved that boat now, but anyway, the point is, rather nice scarf made from alpaca wool in this Saori, let me check I'm making that pronunciation right, Saori Japanese style. And it's not just scarves, she also does these coasters, woolen coasters, and I think I've got here somewhere, oh yes, a woolen bookmark. Now while Fran is busy doing the weaving, Rich, her husband, is a bit of an artist and a bit of a painter, and he does stuff in the abstract style, which obviously may not be to everyone's taste, but if you like it, you will like it. And let's start with this one. That is called On Red Hill. And as you can see, it is indeed an abstract painting of a red hill. And then we've got this one, which is a bit bigger, so it might be a little easier to see. That is called Through the Mist. Certainly a very evocative thing. I don't actually know what it's painted with or on. Does he tell? It's acrylic and watercolours. Acrylic and watercolours. Let's say my notes. He's interested in producing abstract landscapes. Well, I would say that is very much an abstract landscape. And you can either buy them in this sort of picture size, or he does do cards as well, which again, going back to what I'm saying about sending people nice cards, I mean, that's a proper gift, because it's not just a card, it's an actual print of a painting. So definitely worth a look. Original artwork by Richard Pike. Fran and Rich, you've probably seen their channel, because if you're watching this one, you'll have had the recommendations come up to have a look at what they're doing. Anyway, once again, just want to reiterate, that is but a mere sample of the many, many things that are available from narrowboaters. There is some extraordinary talent and inventiveness and creativeness out there. So have a look at the links provided, have a look at the hashtag Buy It Off a Boat, have a look at the Roving Canal Traders Association website, and hopefully you will find some lovely canal-themed gifts. As always, thank you for watching, and if I don't say it before, Happy Christmas!